The celestial Nexus station hung against the backdrop of swirling nebula like a massive crystalline snowflake, its 8 symmetrical arms stretching outward from a central hub. Each facet of its exterior sparkled with the reflected light of 3 nearby suns, while quantum-locked panels absorbed the solar radiation that powered the most advanced space station in the Orion Arm. Maya Chen stood at the viewport of her approaching shuttle, taking in the sight of what would become her new home. Her dark eyes reflected the station's gleaming surface as she absently adjusted the collar of her simple gray jumpsuit. The fabric was worn but clean, deliberately chosen to blend in with the station's maintenance staff. After 15 years of pushing the boundaries of quantum engineering, Maya had learned that the best way to understand a system was to observe it from the ground up. The shuttle's comms crackled to life. Approaching vessel, this is Celestial Nexus Control. State your purpose and credentials. The voice belonged to a Valerian, their distinctive multi-toned speech patterns unmistakable. Maya allowed herself a small smile before responding. Transport Shuttle Sierra 94 requesting docking clearance. Passenger manifest transmitted. There was a pause, longer than necessary for routine verification. Human vessel, remain at holding position while we process your credentials. Maya noted the subtle emphasis on the last word, the slight shift in harmonics that conveyed skepticism. The Valerians were renowned for their technological achievements and equally famous for their belief in their own superiority. Having a human appointed as the station's new chief technical officer had likely ruffled more than a few silver-scaled feathers. The shuttle drifted in space for 12 minutes before receiving clearance to dock. Maya spent the time studying the station's external configuration, her trained eye noting subtle details that didn't quite match the official schematics she'd memorized. Interesting discrepancies that she filed away for later investigation. The docking procedure was smooth, despite the controller's apparent reluctance. Maya gathered her single bag, containing more diagnostic tools than personal items, and made her way to the airlock. The station's artificial gravity embraced her as she stepped through, calibrated to a perfect 1G that spoke to the precision of its engineering. Her first impression of the Celestial Nexus's interior was one of calculated grandeur. The reception area soared 3 decks high, its walls a seamless blend of advanced alloys and transparent quantum glass that offered spectacular views of space. Holographic displays floated at elegant intervals, showing station statistics and arrival/departure information in a dozen different languages. At the central desk, a Valerian receptionist sat with perfect posture, their silvery scales catching the light with each subtle movement. The nameplate read Zixtel, Senior Administrative Coordinator. Their head crest, marked with elaborate patterns that denoted high social status, twitched slightly as Maya approached. "Welcome to Celestial Nexus Station," Zixtel said, managing to make the greeting sound like anything but. Their multifaceted eyes scanned Maya with poorly concealed disdain. "You seem to have been directed to the wrong entrance. Maintenance personnel check in at Level 3, Section D." Maya kept her expression neutral. "I believe you'll find my credentials are in order. Passenger manifest Sierra 94. Zixtel's clawed fingers moved over the holographic interface with practiced efficiency. Their crest scales flattened, a sign of annoyance, as they read the information. There must be some mistake. This clearance level is exactly what it appears to be, Maya finished quietly. Though I'd appreciate if you maintained discretion about my actual position for now. I prefer to begin my assessment without preconceptions interfering with my observations. The Valerian scales shifted through several colors before settling on a muted silver blue of forced compliance. Of course, they said, their harmonic undertones practically vibrating with suppressed indignation. Though I feel obligated to inform you that the Celestial Nexus operates at the highest levels of efficiency, we maintain standards that might be challenging for someone of your background to fully comprehend. Maya accepted the coded insult with the same calm she'd used to face down boardrooms full of skeptics throughout her career. I look forward to learning all I can about the station's operations. Could you direct me to the maintenance quarters? I'd like to get settled in. Zixtal's crest twitched again. You don't wish to use the executive accommodations. The maintenance level will be perfect, thank you. The Valerian transmitted the directions to Maya's personal device, with perhaps more force than necessary. As Maya turned to leave, Zixtal called after her, "Do try not to touch anything critical. Some of our systems are quite delicate." Maya didn't bother responding. She had 90 days to complete her evaluation of the station's systems and implement the necessary upgrades. 90 days to prove that humanity's innovative approach to quantum engineering could enhance even the most advanced alien technology. And judging by the subtle power fluctuations, she could already feel through the deck plating. She had her work cut out for her. As she walked toward the maintenance levels, Maya allowed herself another small smile. The Valerians were about to learn that human ingenuity couldn't be measured by their traditional metrics. Sometimes the most elegant solutions came from perspectives they'd never even considered. The maintenance level hummed with a different kind of energy than the pristine upper decks. Here, the station's true pulse could be felt in every vibration, every subtle fluctuation in the quantum field that powered its vast systems. Maya moved through the corridors with purpose, her diagnostic tools already picking up readings that made her frown. The quantum core's resonance was off by 3 microns, barely detectable to standard equipment, but potentially catastrophic if left unchecked. More concerning were the harmonic patterns she detected in the artificial gravity generators. They showed signs of approaching cascade failure, though the Valerian engineers seemed oblivious to the warning signs. "Watch where you're going, human." A gruff voice interrupted her thoughts. A Valerian technician shouldered past, their scales reflecting emergency lighting that Maya hadn't noticed before. She paused, tracking the technician's path toward Junction 47, where her sensors had detected the strongest gravitational anomalies. Maya pulled up the maintenance schedule on her tablet, noting that Junction 47 had received 6 routine inspections in the past week. The Valerians knew something was wrong, but their rigid adherence to established protocols was preventing them from seeing the true problem. "Excuse me," a soft voice called out. Maya turned to find a young Arcturian engineer, their bioluminescent patterns pulsing with friendly colors. "You're new here, right? I'm Krell. They assigned me to show you around, though they weren't very specific about why you're here." Maya smiled, recognizing an opportunity. The Arcturians were known for their intuitive understanding of energy patterns. "Maya Chen. And I'm here because something in this station is singing out of tune. I'm guessing you've noticed it too." Krull's patterns flickered with surprise and relief. "You can feel it. I've tried telling the supervisors, but they insist the harmonics are within acceptable parameters. Parameters set by engineers who never considered how quantum fields might interact with organic consciousness." Maya noted, her mind already racing with possibilities. "Krell, how would you like to help me run some unofficial diagnostics?" The Arcturians' patterns brightened with interest, but before they could respond, a priority alert flashed across every screen in the corridor. Zixtal's voice echoed through the station's comm system. "Attention maintenance personnel. An unauthorized diagnostic scan has been detected in Section 8. All personnel are reminded that system access is restricted to approved technicians with appropriate clearance levels." Maya exchanged looks with Krell. She hadn't even started her scans yet, which meant someone else was investigating the anomalies. The question was, were they trying to fix the problem or hide it? "Perhaps we should start with something less controversial," Krell suggested, their patterns now showing concern. "The waste reclamation system needs realignment, and nobody monitors those readings too closely." Maya nodded, but her attention was on the quantum resonance patterns flowing through her handheld scanner. The harmonics were shifting, becoming more erratic. They had less time than she'd initially estimated. "Waste reclamation connects to every system on the station," she agreed, "including the quantum core cooling system. Let's start there." As they walked, Maya's tablet discreetly recorded every fluctuation, every power surge, and every subtle shift in the station's quantum field. The Valerians might have built the most advanced station in known space, but they'd missed something fundamental about quantum engineering. The observer effect didn't just apply to particles. Sometimes, the most important observations came from those everyone else ignored. Above them, hidden in the labyrinth of conduits and power relays, the quantum core's harmonics continued their dangerous dance toward chaos. Maya had roughly 72 hours before the cascading failures would become irreversible. 72 hours to convince a station full of skeptical aliens that a human engineer might understand their technology better than they did. She'd faced worse odds. 48 hours later, Maya's predictions were proving grimly accurate. The quantum core's resonance had deteriorated faster than even she had anticipated, sending ripples of distortion through the station's artificial gravity field. In the grand atrium, a cup of Centaurian tea simply floated off a table, causing murmurs of concern among the station's elite passengers. On the lower decks, maintenance crews scrambled to respond to a growing list of system failures. Maya and Krell had worked through 2 shift cycles, tracing the cascading effects through the station's interconnected systems. They'd discovered that the quantum field instabilities weren't just affecting gravity, they were beginning to interfere with the station's structural integrity field. The Valerian engineers are still insisting it's just a minor calibration issue, Krell reported, their bioluminescent patterns pulsing with anxiety. They're running standard diagnostics, but a violent shudder ran through the station, causing them both to grab onto the nearest support beam. Maya's tablet screamed with alerts as multiple systems began to fail simultaneously. "We're out of time," Maya said, pulling up the station's internal schematics. "The quantum resonance cascade is reaching critical levels. If we don't stabilize it now, we'll lose containment within the hour." The station's comm system crackled to life with Zixtel's voice, somehow managing to sound both alarmed and condescending. "Attention all personnel. Due to temporary technical difficulties, all non-essential personnel are to remain in their current locations. Our engineering teams have the situation well in hand." Another tremor, stronger than the last, cut off the announcement. Maya's tablet showed the artificial gravity failing in sections across 3 decks. More worryingly, the quantum field distortions were beginning to affect the station's shield harmonics. "Krell, I need you to get me into the main engineering control room," Maya said, already gathering her tools. "Official clearance or not, if we don't correct this now, there won't be a station left to save." The Arcturians' patterns swirled with determination. The chief engineer's codes should work, but they hesitated. "Zixtal has been monitoring all unauthorized access attempts. They've stationed security drones outside engineering." Maya smiled grimly. "Good thing I brought some human ingenuity then." She pulled a small device from her toolkit, one of her own design, combining quantum entanglement principles with good old-fashioned signal disruption. Sometimes the best solutions aren't in any official manual. They made their way through increasingly chaotic corridors, passing groups of confused passengers and frantically working maintenance crews. The station's artificial gravity was now fluctuating wildly, causing objects and people to drift momentarily before being yanked back to the deck with bone-jarring force. Outside the main engineering control room, 2 security drones hovered menacingly, their sensors sweeping the corridor. Maya activated her device, and the drone's recognition systems suddenly found themselves getting conflicting data from multiple quantum states simultaneously. "How did you?" Krell began, watching the drones spin in confused circles. "Quantum uncertainty principle applied to their targeting systems," Maya explained, already working on the door's security panel. "They can't stop what they can't definitively detect." The door slid open to reveal a scene of controlled chaos. Valerian engineers rushed between stations, their scales shifting through patterns of distress as they tried to contain the cascading failures. At the central console, the chief engineer was barking orders in increasingly frustrated harmonics. "Stop," a familiar multi-tone voice commanded. Zixtel stood from their administrative station, crest scales fully extended in alarm. "This human has no authorization to be here," Security, remove. Another violent tremor rocked the station, this one accompanied by the screech of straining metal. Warning lights flooded the control room as multiple critical systems began to fail. Quantum containment at 18% and falling. One of the engineers reported, their harmonics sharp with fear. Core collapse imminent. Listen to me. Maya projected her voice with the authority of someone who had spent their career being underestimated. Your containment algorithms are based on standard quantum models, but this isn't a standard situation. The core's resonance patterns have evolved beyond your baseline assumptions. The chief engineer whirled to face her, scales flickering between anger and desperation. And I suppose a human understands quantum engineering better than the race that invented it. No, Maya said, already moving toward the main control interface. But sometimes it takes an outside perspective to see what you're too close to notice. The core isn't failing, it's adapting. You're fighting against its natural evolution instead of working with it. She pulled up the core's quantum signature, highlighting patterns that the Valerian systems had dismissed as noise. Look, the harmonics aren't random. They're forming a new stable pattern, but your containment systems are forcing them back into the old configuration. The chief engineer's scales shifted to a deep blue of realization. Impossible, unless the quantum field has achieved a level of self-organization your theories hadn't predicted, Maya finished. Now, are we going to stand here arguing about it, or are you going to help me save your station? A moment of tense silence followed, broken by another ominous groan from the station's superstructure. The chief engineer's scales rippled with rapid color changes, doubt, fear, and finally resolution. What do you need? They asked. Access to the core's primary control matrices, Maya said, her fingers already flying over the interface. And someone needs to override the automated safety protocols. They're only making things worse. Override safety protocols. Zixtal interrupted, their voice sharp with alarm. That's completely against all established procedures. I must insist. Quantum containment at 12%. An engineer called out. Core collapse in 7 minutes. The chief engineer made their decision. Give her what she needs. All of it. Maya's world narrowed to the complex dance of quantum fields displayed before her. With Krell calling out readings and the Valerian engineers reluctantly following her instructions, she began to implement her solution. Instead of fighting the core's evolving harmonics, she designed a new containment algorithm that would work with them. The core isn't just machinery, she explained as she worked. It's a quantum system complex enough to exhibit emergent behavior. Your rigid protocols are like trying to force a river to flow uphill instead of working with its natural course. Her fingers flew across multiple interfaces, making adjustments that seemed to violate every principle of Valerian quantum engineering. Yet with each change, the violent tremors began to ease. The core's quantum signature, displayed as a complex three-dimensional pattern in the air above them, started to shift into a new, more stable configuration. Impossible, one of the younger engineers whispered, their scales showing patterns of awe. The harmonics are. They're self-stabilizing. Quantum containment rising. Another reported. 15%. 20. 35. Zixtal moved closer, their administrative authority forgotten in the face of what they were witnessing. How did you know this would work? Because humans have learned to see opportunities where others see only chaos, Maya replied, not taking her eyes off her work. Sometimes the best solution isn't to impose order, but to help the system find its own balance. The quantum core's signature pulsed with new life, its patterns more complex, but also more stable than anything the Valerians had designed. Throughout the station, systems began to come back online, now operating at efficiency levels that exceeded their original specifications. Core stabilized at 87%, the engineer announced, their harmonics carrying clear disbelief. No, 92%. We're seeing quantum efficiency ratings beyond theoretical maximums. The chief engineer studied the readings with intense focus. These patterns, they shouldn't be possible according to our models. Your models were based on controlling quantum systems, Maya explained. We learned to partner with them instead. Sometimes the best way to maintain control is to know when to let go. And who exactly are you to make such claims about our technology? Zixtal demanded, though their tone had lost much of its earlier condescension. Maya finally straightened from the console, meeting their gaze directly. Maya Chen, newly appointed Chief Technical Officer of Celestial Nexus Station, though I had hoped to complete my evaluation of your systems before making that known. The control room fell silent. Zixtal's scales shifted through a rapid series of colors before settling on a deep purple of embarrassment. The chief engineer, however, showed patterns of thoughtful consideration. The station council appointed a human as CTO. Zixtal's voice was faint. But why didn't you say something when I... Because I needed to see how the station really operated, Maya replied. Not how everyone would pretend it operated in front of a superior. And what I've seen is both inspiring and concerning. You've built something remarkable here, but your own preconceptions are holding you back from its full potential. The chief engineer stepped forward, their scales now showing patterns of respect. The quantum core's new configuration. These efficiency readings, they validate theories our scientists dismissed as impossible. Nothing is impossible, Maya said, allowing herself a small smile. Just improbable until someone proves otherwise. Now shall we discuss the other systems that could benefit from a fresh perspective? 1 month later, the Celestial Nexus Station had undergone a transformation that went far beyond its improved systems. The quantum core, operating at its new heightened efficiency, had inspired changes throughout the station's operations. But the most significant changes weren't in the technology. They were in the people. Maya stood in the observation lounge, watching ships dock with a grace that hadn't been possible before the quantum field improvements. Behind her, she heard the distinctive sound of Valerian scales shifting in response to emotional states. Chief Technical Officer Zixtal greeted, their harmonics carrying a warmth that would have been unthinkable a month ago. The latest efficiency reports are ready for your review, and there's something else you should see. Maya turned to find the administrator's scales showing patterns of pride, not the arrogant pride she'd first encountered, but something more collaborative. Good news, I hope. The Station Council has approved your proposal for the Interspecies Engineering Initiative, Zixtal announced. They were particularly impressed by the results of having Krell's Arcturian sensitivity to energy patterns work in conjunction with Valerian quantum theory and human intuition, Maya added with a slight smile. Zixtal's scales flickered, and what Maya had learned was their version of a chuckle. Indeed, it seems there are advantages to combining different perspectives. The Council has also requested that you present your findings at the Galactic Engineering Summit next month. Maya nodded, remembering her first days on the station. Quite a change from when my presence in engineering was considered a security risk. About that, Zixtal's scales shifted to deeper hues of sincerity. I wanted to formally apologize for my initial behavior. I let prejudice blind me to possibility, which is the gravest sin an administrator can commit. We all have our learning curves, Maya replied. The important thing is how we respond when confronted with evidence that challenges our assumptions. They both turned to watch as a group of engineers, Valerian, Arcturian, and human, passed by, engaged in animated discussion about quantum harmonic theory. The sight would have been unthinkable just weeks ago. The station's reputation has actually improved since word of the quantum core breakthrough spread, Zixtal noted. We've received requests from 3 different species asking to send engineering apprentices. Good, Maya said. The more perspectives we have, the better our chances of seeing solutions others might miss. She paused, considering her next words carefully. You know, there's an old human saying, the universe is not only stranger than we imagine, it's stranger than we can imagine. Your species has an intriguing way of viewing reality, Zixtal observed, their scales showing thoughtful patterns. Perhaps that's why you're able to see possibilities where we see only problems. Or perhaps, Maya suggested, It's simply that every species has something unique to contribute. The trick is creating an environment where all those contributions are valued. As if to emphasize her point, an alert chimed softly. The quantum core had just reached a new efficiency peak, its evolving patterns having found yet another stable configuration that the station's engineers would spend weeks studying. The quarterly staff rotation schedule needs your approval, Zixtel said, their administrative efficiency returning. I've taken the liberty of reorganizing the engineering teams to ensure a mix of perspectives on each shift. Maya smiled. Perfect. Though I hope you've also scheduled yourself some rest periods. Even administrators need downtime. Zixtel's scales showed a pattern Maya hadn't seen before, something between amusement and acceptance. Another human concept I'm learning to appreciate. Though I must admit, the station runs more smoothly now that we've learned to adapt, rather than simply maintain. That's the real breakthrough, Maya said, watching as another ship gracefully docked, guided by the harmonious interaction of quantum fields and organic intuition. Not the technology, but the recognition that progress comes from embracing diversity rather than fearing it. The station hummed around them with a sound that was neither purely mechanical nor entirely natural, but rather a harmony of both. It was the sound of different approaches working together, of barriers breaking down, of possibilities expanding. Maya Chen, the human who had arrived in a worn jumpsuit and faced down prejudice with quiet competence, had done more than fix a quantum core. She had shown that the greatest innovations come not from insisting on one way of doing things, but from being open to new perspectives. The celestial Nexus station continued its eternal dance among the stars, now a shining example of what was possible when different species worked together. Its quantum core pulsed with patterns that defied traditional models, much like the community that now called the station home. As Maya reviewed the day's reports, she reflected that some problems required more than just technical solutions. They required a change in how people thought about problems themselves. And sometimes, the most powerful thing anyone could do was simply prove that impossible things were possible after all.